There's a question that military historians have debated for decades. How can probably the most powerful military on Earth still decide that one war may simply cost too much? Because sometimes the greatest victories are the wars that never happen. And no country illustrates that paradox better than Iran. For more than 40 years, the United States and Iran have confronted one another. Sanctions, proxy conflicts, cyber operations, missile exchanges. Moments when war seemed only hours away. And yet, the full-scale war many predicted never came. Why? Most people think they already know. Nuclear weapons. Except, Iran doesn't publicly possess nuclear weapons. So that can't be the whole answer. Others point to missiles, or drones, or politics. They're all part of the story, but none of them is the story. To understand today's headlines, we need to leave today's world. Because this story didn't begin with missiles. It began with oil. And one man whose name most people outside Iran have never heard. Mohammad Mossadegh. Imagine discovering that beneath your country lies one of the greatest concentrations of oil on Earth. Yet much of that wealth is controlled by foreign interests. For many Iranians, this wasn't only about economics. It was about sovereignty. Who decides the future of a nation? Its people or someone else? In 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh made a decision that changed history. He nationalized Iran's oil industry. Inside Iran, many celebrated. To them, it was a declaration of independence. Outside Iran, the decision triggered alarm. Britain feared losing access to vital oil interests. The United States, viewing events through the lens of the Cold War, worried that instability in Iran could shift the regional balance. Two allies, one crisis, different motivations, a shared concern. In 1953, the United States and the United Kingdom backed a covert operation now known as Operation Ajax. Declassified CIA documents confirm American involvement in helping remove Mossadegh from power. Historians continue to debate the relative importance of different internal and external factors, but the outcome is clear. The Shah returned. And for many Iranians, a lasting question remained. If foreign powers could shape yesterday's government, could they shape tomorrow's too? History has a habit of leaving unfinished business. Because 26 years later, Iran would experience another revolution. And after that, an 8-year war. Those two events would transform the country forever. In 1979, the world watched a revolution. Millions filled the streets. The Shah left. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returned from exile. The Islamic Republic was born. For many Iranians, it was the end of a monarchy. For Washington, it was the loss of one of its closest allies in the Middle East. Neither side knew it yet, But this moment would shape the next half-century. Then, before the revolution could even settle, another crisis arrived. In September 1980, Iraq invaded Iran. Saddam Hussein believed the revolution had weakened the country. He expected a quick victory. Instead, the war lasted 8 years. Entire cities were destroyed. Chemical weapons were used. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed or wounded. For one generation, war wasn't an event. It was childhood. Wars don't only destroy buildings. They rewrite how nations think. For Iran, the lesson was brutal. No one was coming to save them. If the country wanted security, it would have to build it itself. Not next year, not someday, immediately. Most people think military power begins inside factories. It doesn't. Every missile begins as mathematics. Every radar begins as physics. Every drone begins inside a classroom. While headlines focused on sanctions, Iran invested in something sanctions couldn't fully stop: education and knowledge. Iran understood something fundamental. It could never match America, tank for tank, ship for ship, jet for jet. So it stopped trying. Instead, it asked a different question. How do you make overwhelming military power less decisive? History offers one answer. You don't mirror your opponent. You force your opponent to fight your kind of war. One technology fit that strategy perfectly. The drone. Cheap enough to build in numbers, flexible enough to adapt, capable of surveillance, precision strikes, or overwhelming defenses through sheer quantity. Modern warfare had entered a new era. Not every target required $1 billion aircraft. Sometimes, a much smaller machine could force a much larger response. The economics of war were changing. Then came another layer. Over the years, Iran developed one of the largest missile arsenals in the Middle East. Ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, long-range strike systems, and more recently, missiles that Iran says can reach hypersonic speeds. Whether every public claim reflects battlefield performance remains debated. But military planners don't prepare only for certainty. They prepare for possibility. That's what deterrence is. Not proving your opponent can't attack, making them wonder if attacking is worth the risk. By now, you might think you found Iran's greatest advantage. The engineers, the drones, the missiles. But they're only pieces of a much larger puzzle. Because the most powerful asset Iran possesses was never built in a factory. It was carved by geography. What if Iran's greatest weapon has never fired a single shot? Not because it isn't dangerous, but because it doesn't have to be. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is a place. Every day, Roughly 1/5 of the world's seaborne oil trade passes through this narrow waterway. Liquefied natural gas follows the same route. Ships carrying energy from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates all converge here. Not because they choose to, because geography leaves them little alternative. One narrow passage. One global dependency. Imagine that shipping through Hormuz slows dramatically. Not forever, just long enough for uncertainty to spread. Energy prices react, insurance premiums rise, shipping companies reroute vessels, financial markets respond, factories begin calculating higher costs. Because today's economy runs on confidence. Confidence can disappear much faster than oil. Could Iran actually close the Strait of Hormuz? The answer isn't simple. The United States and its allies maintain powerful naval forces in the region. A prolonged closure would likely face an immediate international response. But military strategy isn't only about what is possible. It's also about what others believe might happen. Even temporary disruption, or the perception of increased risk, can influence energy markets, shipping decisions, and military planning. Sometimes, uncertainty itself becomes a strategic tool. But Hormuz is only one layer. Look beyond the coastline. Iran is protected by geography few countries possess. The Zagros Mountains stretch across the west. The Alborz Mountains shield the north. Steep valleys, narrow passes, harsh terrain. For military planners, every mountain becomes another logistical challenge. Every kilometer becomes more expensive than the last. So maybe this is Iran's greatest advantage. The mountains, the coastline, the Strait of Hormuz. It certainly looks that way. But geography alone never built a missile, never designed a drone, never trained an engineer. There is still one final piece missing. For decades, people have searched for a single explanation. Missiles, oil, religion, geography, politics. But none of them can explain Iran on their own. Because the real answer was never one advantage. It was the way every advantage reinforced the next. History created resilience. Resilience demanded self-reliance. Self-reliance produced engineers. Engineers built technology. Technology strengthened deterrence. And geography multiplied the value of every one of them. That's the system. And that's what makes this story so difficult to reduce to a single headline. So now, we can finally understand the real problem. America has more aircraft, more ships, more money, more technology. If military power alone decided wars, Iran would not be much of a mystery. But wars aren't decided by weapons alone. They're decided by what happens after the first strike. And That's where Iran becomes America's most dangerous dilemma.
For the United States, time can become a cost. Every additional week means more fuel, more ammunition, more deployments, more maintenance, and more political pressure. For Iran, time can work differently. Iran doesn't necessarily need to defeat America on the battlefield. It can try to survive, adapt, and keep the conflict going. Because the longer the war continues, the more expensive it becomes to maintain. And eventually, the question changes. Not can America win, but is the victory worth the cost?
Then, there is the Strait of Hormuz. A conflict involving Iran wouldn't necessarily stay inside Iran. Disruption to shipping could affect energy markets, insurance, transportation, manufacturing, and eventually, consumers around the world. One regional conflict could become an economic problem for countries thousands of miles away. And that creates another dilemma for Washington. The longer the conflict lasts, the greater the risk that its economic consequences spread far beyond the battlefield. But perhaps Iran's most important advantage cannot be measured in dollars: endurance. Iran has experienced revolution, sanctions, isolation, and an 8-year war with Iraq. For an entire generation, war wasn't something they watched on television. It was something they lived. That history helped create a culture of self-reliance and a military doctrine built around surviving pressure. As Ho Chi Minh famously stated, victory is certain when the oppressed aren't afraid to die. The quote came from a very different conflict, but the strategic idea is relevant. A stronger opponent can struggle when the weaker side is willing to endure enormous costs. And this creates the strange mathematics of a war with Iran. America may have the greater military capability, but Iran doesn't have to match it. It can use drones instead of expensive aircraft, hypersonic missiles instead of large conventional forces, mountains instead of open terrain, and geography instead of naval superiority. Each advantage is limited on its own. Together, they can make a conflict far more difficult and far more expensive than its opening battle might suggest. So why is Iran America's most dangerous dilemma? Not because Iran is stronger. It isn't. Not because Iran is impossible to defeat. It isn't. The danger is something more complicated. America can have overwhelming military superiority and still face a war where the cost rises the longer it continues. Iran doesn't necessarily need to win every battle. It needs to remain capable of fighting while making the political and economic price of continuing harder to justify. And that's the paradox. The stronger military may win the battlefield, while the weaker opponent wins the argument over whether the war should continue. Because perhaps the most dangerous opponent isn't the one that can defeat you. It's the one that can make defeating them too expensive to justify.
And that is the real Iran dilemma. Not whether America has the power to fight, but whether it can afford the consequences of fighting for long enough to achieve what it wants. History isn't over. You're